Hello and welcome everyone. A lot of eyes are currently watching my channel because Dan Worrell was so nice to repost the video that deals with the plugin that I made in inspiration of his sound design and mixing technique, where he used parallel bandpass filters to make drums fatter. That is pretty cool. Thank you, Dan. Anyway, a lot of people probably get a little bit confused when they see my channel at first, because it is about a lot of different stuff. It is about my own plugins. It is about plugin reviews. It is about plugin tests. It is about using plugins for sound design. It is about using plugins for mixing. And it is about my own music in which I use plugins. So I'm basically all about plugins. I love plugins, especially VST plugins, but also the newly released Clap format. And just to give you a little bit of an intro about how I approach things, I just want to make this little video to show you just an example of how I'm doing things. And I hope you enjoy it. I have this beat right here. And the cool thing about this beat is that I made it just with my friends on my birthday, which was yesterday. And yeah, there was a lot of fun. I figured out a new production technique in that process, and I just decided to show you how that works. So basically, in order to understand this process that I'm going to show you now, you have to imagine that your beat is a parallel, or it's a dimension. I wanted to say a universe, but more like a dimension of sound. And there are parallel dimensions that are sitting next to your sound. And these parallel dimensions use the same effect chains and the same sounds than your dimension, but they come to different results. Now the question is, how do I get these sounds and bring them into my own dimension? Now, in order to do that, you just have to change the BPM of your sound radically. And I will just radically turn it down to 50 BPM, I think. You can choose any BPM you want, but I just decided for 50 now. And it sounds like this. Now you can already hear probably what I mean. We have still the same effects stuff, MudPie thingy here, but it sounds very different than before, and it also sounds different than if you just bounced that out and then after bouncing turned down the speed. And that is because a lot of stuff in these really long effect chains that you are creating when making MudPies like this is not perfectly tempo sync, but some of that is just, I don't know, all over the place with milliseconds and stuff like that, or delays that are just doing something in milliseconds. So things just turn out with different texture when you are changing the BPM of the project, even though you still have the same effect chain. So that is the parallel dimension that I was talking of. You still have the same effect chains and stuff, but you have a new sound. So what would you do if you wanted to bring that back to your own original BPM? You cannot just type in the original BPM again, because that will just give you the original sound back. Which of course is a nice sound already. But just to demonstrate my point, we are back on 50 BPM and we are bouncing out a new track from that. By the way, this track was also the result of this process already, and then I put it into this group, which is a group in Bitwig is like a bus. So this is basically a recursive process. You can put the stuff that you already made like that into the group that you used, and then you can just do it again and you get a new sound again. and it will yield new possibilities. So now we have this sound and it sounds like this. And we can go back to the original BPM again and see what we can do with that. First of all, we can just try different modes of time stretching. And you have these in all kinds of DAWs, so this is not bit specific. Repitch or resampling modes are always the ones that just sound the cleanest. Because, you know, we are just changing the playback speed of the signal, but of course you have pitch drifts then. What else can we try? We can of course always just use the Elastique Pro stuff, but that is just more meant for a subtle sound. And you can already hear that it smears the transients a little bit in an effort to save the performance. If we don't care for performance because this is not a vocal sample or something, then we can just use something more old school like the cyclic one. And of course we can also just type in different tempi here, like 100 instead of 50. And then the entire sample will be interpreted in a different way. Or maybe 200, so that's a bit more drastical. Okay, so let's go on with putting that into the folder as well and just playing back everything at once. And now we could make things have a little bit more depth as well. In German we call that Tiefenstaffelung, by just adding an equalizer and giving the lowest MudPy thingy a little bit of a high shelf cut. That way it seems more distant, and now it will set itself apart from the other sounds. Of course, we can also use different techniques of adding distance, like just traditionally adding reverb. Now I want the main track be the one that is like most foregroundish. So one thing I will add before really calling that finished off is just Pro MB as a multiband expander. Because that can tighten up the sound a lot. Never forget the look ahead when doing that, or it will choke your transients. You don't need a lot of look ahead on the lower bands if you are sidechaining it from the higher bands, because the transient energy is usually higher, comes first on the higher frequencies anyway. Now we have a sound that sounds a bit more intimate and more close, because it doesn't have so much body but just the transients, which gives you the perception of things being very near to you. Now we have this sound that is kind of in between the other two sounds, and I just want to use a similar technique to the sound that is below it in terms of depth, but not so much. Okay, nice. I think now we really nailed the atmosphere of this part. And that's a good moment for me to